Hello ma'am, I am Mariani Escomo. What we are going to discuss right now is about the security, theory, and practice. So, world security. Um, International security refers to the measures taken by states and international organizations such as the United Nations, European Union, and others to ensure mutual survival and safety. Um, International security, also called global security. So, the military action and diplomatic agreements such as treaties and conventions are examples of these measures. So, the security of the international community and the security of the United States are inextricably connected. So again, the international security are called global security. So international security is national security or state security in the global arena. So who is responsible for international security? So the UN Security Council has the primary responsibility for international peace and security. The General Assembly and the Secretary General play major, important, and complementary roles along with UN offices and bodies. Okay, so let's proceed to the securitization theory. According to the securitization theory, political issues are constituted as extremely security issues to be dealt with urgently when they have been labeled as dangerous, threatening, alarming, and so on by securitizing actor who has the social and institutional power to move the issue beyond politics. So security issues must be articulated as problems by securizing actors. Securitization theory challenges traditional approaches to security in IR and asserts that issues are not essentially threatening in themselves. Rather, it is by referring to them as security issues that they become security problems.
The basic of securitization theory. The narrowers were concerned with the security of the state and often focused on analyzing the military and political stability between the United States and Soviet Union. Dissatisfied with this wideners sought to include the types of threats that were not military in nature and that affected people rather than states. This expanded the security agenda by including concepts such as human security and regional security, together with the ideas of culture and identity. Feminism had an important role in widening the agenda by challenging the ideas that sole provider of security was the state and that gender and irrelevant in the production of security. It was an important development in the rise of Wider's perspective on security. Whether one agree with the wideners or narrowers, that end of the Cold War indicated that security was an essentially contested concept, a concept that generates debates that cannot be resolved by reference to empirical evidence that the concept contains a clear ideological or moral element and defies precise, generally accepted definition. View in this light, surveillance become a security apparatus of control and a source of insecurity. It is by questioning the essence of security in cases such as this that securitization theory developed and widened the scope of security to include other referent objects beyond the state. A central idea in securitization is the thing that is strengthened and needs to be protected. This theory talks about the basic security in regards of the state as well its people to secure its threats that can affect people as well as the states.
Securitization theorists are determined into 5 sectors, and these are the economic sector, the societal, the military, the political, and the environmental sector. In each sector, a specific threat that is articulated as threatening a referent object. For example, the social sector. The referent object is identity. Identity is its referent object simply because the societal sector refers to that part of social or any activities that has done to the society. Next is environmental sector. Its referent objects are the ecosystem and endangered species. It is only in the military sector that the referent object remains the state, and that's because military sector are responsible of the internal security threats, just like the population control, protecting corporate economic interests, and more. By sectorializing security, we understand that existential threats are not objective but instead relate to the different characteristics of each referent object. This technique also highlights the contextual nature of security and threats. Suicide bomb attacks, for example, are greater source of anxiety for some people today than they are for others. Yet, we often hear suicide terrorism framed as a global threat. Suicide bomb attacks and suicide terrorism are both problems that needs to be solved and require high security system. But suicide terrorism is framed as global threat. It's because this cause a big damage to a country, and this happens to a numerous countries of the world. It is stated in there that central securitization theory is showing the theoretical structure of decision makers in framing an issue and attempting to convince an audience to leave the issue above politics. This is what we call a speech act. By saving the words, something is done, like betting, giving a promise, and naming a ship. Conceptualizing securitization as a speech act is important as it shows that words do not merely describe reality but constitute reality. And describe and constitute are two different words, because when we say describe, it means we are just describing the reality, while constitute, on the other hand, is creating or establishing something. Now, connecting this to securitization, we must not just describe it, we must create or establish it. In the process of describing the reality, we see that we also interact with the world and perform an action that will greatly describe to seeing that reality in a different way. For example, referring to an immigration camp in Calais as the jungle, it is not just simply describing what the camp is, but also portraying it as a lawless and dangerous place. Now we can see the difference between describing it and portraying it. Because describing it, you're just describing that place, while portraying it, it involves action.
So, we are going to discuss the securitization theory and the Islamic State group in Europe. The securitization of the Islamic State group affects the three factors: the societal, the military, and the political. Um, if the Islamic State group is securitized in European states, which are regarded as democratic, we should be seeing securitizing moves from government officials, a rhetorical justification of why intervention, for instance, is the only way to remove the threat of the Islamic State. The police, the intelligence services, customs, immigration services, border guards, and the military, they are the one who operate within a field of security characterized by um, competition over the right solution. They all play an important role in defining the security landscape.
As you can see, that noticeable example of securitizing moves in the United Kingdom can be found during the House of Commons debate on the motion for British military action in Syria on 2 December 2015. British Prime Minister David Cameron argued that we face a fundamental threat to our security from the threat of the Islamic State group, who attack us because of who we are and not because of what we do. This was the presentation of the nature of the threat and establishment of a regime of truth. He then said that we should not wait any longer to reduce the threat. This was the point of no return. Finally, he pointed out that it is not about whether we want to fight terrorism, but about how best we do that. This was the solution provided. Using the securitization theory shows that the politics of terrorism and counter-terrorism is about threat magnification, and that the symbolic violence caused by attacks is out of proportion to the numbers of deaths. It is responsible for example, the number of victims in Western Europe was higher in 1970s and 1980s as a result of groups such as the IRA than the number that can be attributed to Islamic terrorists in recent time. Yet leaders of European countries claim that the world has never faced such barbarity, honor, and atrocity. This threat magnification demonstrates the exceptionality of threat, which in turn requires urgent and extraordinary responses. Thinking of terrorism in this way is not only de- detrimental to the deliberative process but also limits our understanding of terrorism more generally. So the conclusion are securitization is a useful tool for students in IR as it consists traditional approaches to security that are overly focused on the security of state rather than on other referent objects. Adopting our securitization framework entails challenging hegemonic and taken for granted ideas about the universality and objectivity of security and emphasizes the ways in which knowledge is not merely out there but is driven by interest. Securitization theory reminds us that securitization is not neutral act but is a political one. From that starting point, we are able to dig deeper and investigate the various securities that are found in international relationships. That's all. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Ravik Jr., and my topic is the importance of security. So, the importance of security. Public security is one of the main needs of a nation because dynamics in the path of science and spirituality, development and technology, Economics and art is owed to public security. When individuals and society are faced with their behaviors, their characters and personalities are protected and respected, and their social rights are maintained, they feel and rest calmness in their hearts, and then creativity and talents are flourished. Individuals they grow in the shadow of such safety and peace. As a result, the society will be dynamic. On the contrary, in individuals do not feel safe concerning important issues of life such as work, income, reputation, and social relations with society and government. They feel unrest and threatened. Any needs public security for its function because new conditions in societies resulting from urbanizing growth and faded social relations cause the reduction of social cohesion, civil participation, social capital, collective social relationship, and etc. So, collective life tends to individualism and undermine function social institution. These issues give rise to social problems and crime, social deviance at large. One, on the other hand, functions with the social system institution are declining and fading so that different dimensions of security are faced with critical condition by increased crime rate. Citizens of opportunity and creative are faced with critical condition by increased crime rate. So this explains why public security is important and how impact the society. Actually, there are several sociologists who are explain different viewpoints related to job security, political security, cultural security, and etc. In general, security is divided into individual security and social security. When it comes to security, it needs to be considered in both individuals and personal fields. Although they seem different and separated, they are strongly intertwined so that individual security leads to the establishment of social security. Therefore, from the perspective of sociology, individual security is the basis of social security.